Good Friday morning to everybody. Welcome to this week's edition.
Talking from our aft. It's a little different.
It is a little different. Today is going to be mostly talking from our aft, as we're going to share a story. Something that's happened to us since we've come back into the United States from the Bahamas. And we weren't really sure what to do, right?
Yeah, we were very torn in whether or not to share this story or not. And the reason we were torn is because this story brought a lot of bitterness. I still get very hot and heated when I think about it or talk about it. And we're not those type of people to like smear someone else's name in the ground and talk negatively about someone else. We all make mistakes, we all know that. So that's why I don't want to just sit here and vent and complain about someone. But we've been encouraged by some other people to share it because this is a story that you're going to learn from.
Yeah, this is just a scenario that happened. We didn't ask for it. It just came upon us in a moment's notice. And unfortunately, as you'll see later in our story, the other party involved just put the old, it's not my fault, I didn't do anything wrong, no personal responsibility, didn't take responsibility for their actions. And I may have some legal thing I could do to force his hand, possibly, but that's a big maybe, and that could be months and months down the road. And so unfortunately, it's been a month or so now since it happened.
So
we've kind of come to peace about it. We're still super angry with the gentleman, but it is what it is. So all we can do now is share the story, and here's what happened.
This is what we're going to share. Let me catch you up real quick to where we are. Last week, we left the Bahamas and took advantage of a perfectly calm chance to cross the Gulf Stream. But before heading to our marina for hurricane season, we stopped at Boca Chica for a few nights. The family decided not to film anything because we wanted a total vacation and to relax.
Now that you know how we got here, we're now currently cruising southbound through the ICW from the Miami area down to the Keys, our end destination being Islamorada, right?
Yeah, and now, real quick, before we go into the whole story, let me kind of set the background for you. We chose the ICW because it was a little bit windy out on the ocean from southeast winds, and so we knew the ICW would be the most protected.
Yep.
There's about a 1 foot chop going on, nothing that would cause any danger.
No, it was actually a pretty relatively
Nothing.
Mild day on the ICW for us.
There was no rain, maybe it was a little overcast, it wasn't like hot and sunny, but
Good visibility.
Yep, and it's about 9 to 10 feet of water, and you go through Biscayne Bay, and then the ICW has many different, we call them sounds.
Yeah.
So you go through a cut, and then like a lake area looking thing, which is a sound. So let's fast forward, we're in Card Sound.
So Card Sound is just north of the Highway 1 bridge. If you drive into the Keys, you pass the big bridge, and you've got a big Card Sound to your right and another one to your left. To the left to the north is Card Sound, and to the south to the right is Barn Sound, right? I believe. Yeah. So we're in Card Sound. We're heading southbound, and
We're doing our 8 knots.
doing our 8 knots.
Everything's
we're
running
cruising.
great.
Even though these are big wide sounds, they still have sandbar areas. And so at this particular moment, we were through a pretty decent sized cut where it's a big sandbar on both sides where we would run aground if we weren't in the channel. And
It's between markers like 16 and 12 is where we were.
yeah, so if you want to look that up. And we were just cruising along, everything was normal. All of a sudden we hear something. I kind of look to my left to the port side, and I'm looking at a massive yacht passing us.
Overtaking us.
Yeah, and I was like, so startled, I just looked over, and the guy at the helm was like, hey, and we're like,
What?
and I put my hand up, and I immediately was like, oh shit, this is gonna be bad. And I just yelled,
I said, Chris!
She yells at me, and all I had time to do was go, hang on! So what was happening was this was a 58-foot. What was the make of the boat? Serina. So this is like a.
It's a brand new boat. It was. My guess there's only one or two.
Yeah.
Already imported into the United States.
So they're like a trawler / super yacht mini thing, but they're 58 feet. We're a 47-foot vessel. This was another 11 feet longer than my vessel, and we do 8 knots. I looked up on the manufacturer's website. These things cruise at 18 to 22 knots.
My guess was he was full throttle. He was going 18.
He was
20
moving,
knots.
and if you don't understand what happens so if we'd been passing like this, head on to each other, his wake would have made my boat go like this. I would have gone up once or twice and I would have settled.
Fine.
Well, instead what happens is he's coming up and he's passing me from behind. My boat goes like this and then it comes back. A 58-foot vessel, which, let's see, our boat weighs
6,500.
no, its physical weight is 56,000 pounds, I believe. We have a 56,000 pound boat. His boat is much bigger than ours. I would guess, and I have to look, but I bet he's in the 80,000 plus range compared to our boat. Mm-hmm. And if you can imagine the kind of wake that puts off, I put off a good 2 to 3 foot wake at 8 knots. This boat moving at his speed, I don't know, 6 foot, I really don't know. But the problem was he was so close to us.
Chris and I disagree a little. I think he was much more in the realm of 8 to 10 feet from our vessel.
Yeah.
I absolutely know how that sounds. We have done the math. We've looked at the charts. Seeing eye to eye with him right next to us.
Yeah, I agree with Jolene now after thinking about it.
I couldn't even see the bottom half of his vessel.
Where his boat entered the water, I couldn't see that. So he was so close, I couldn't see that. And then his so my boat is 14 and a half feet wide. Mm-hmm. You could not drive my boat between the two of our boats without hitting both of us. That's how close. So I know for a fact he was closer than 14 and a half feet to me.
So he overtook us.
Yep.
So what happened?
He pitched our boat so much to one side. Jolene's had a lot of nervous moments in our boat, right? We've had 12-foot seas. We've had some instances where she was very nervous and scared.
I get scared a lot.
I've had bad storm situations where my boat's rocked and like coming into Nassau, coming into Georgetown. And I was like, I'm pretty comfortable with my boat now. I'm leaning over. Me and her got pitched to the starboard side.
We're just hanging on. We're on the upper helm.
We're in the upper helm, and I'm looking at the water, and there's a moment in my head, I'm like, my boat may not come back from this.
It was the only time you ever felt like we might capsize.
Yeah, and I went from like, oh crap, just moment of clarity to severely pissed off at this guy. We come back, luckily, we ride it. My boat is crashing. Everything in my boat's going nuts.
Absolutely every single thing in the boat, not bolted down, is now on the starboard side or the right side of the vessel. So we actually, once we
righted ourselves, we came back.
We didn't come back all the way because now everything is on one side.
We were still listening to that one side.
So, what happened to the kids? What happened to the boat?
Yeah.
We've been waked before by rude people.
Yeah. Not like this. This is insane.
This is completely different. So, I'll talk about the kids and you talk about the vessel.
Yeah. We're going to show you some footage coming up here of the aftermath. And it's just raw footage we took at the moment because we needed to document everything we could. Let me back up a second. As soon as it happened, first thing Jolene does is she goes downstairs to make sure the kids are okay.
Because we had about half a second to see it.
And all I could do was yell, hang on! And we were pitched.
Had no idea what was happening. So I'll show some video and then we'll come right back.
Yeah.
Before I could grab my camera, the boys put most of the living room back together and all of the mattresses back on the beds.
So the first thing that we did when we pitched back up is I got on the radio and I hailed him. I'm like, to the motor vessel just passed me. This is Illuminate. you guys just waked up severely.
Yeah, you didn't really say some nice words.
I was pretty upset. If they recorded that, you're going to hear some F-bombs for sure.
And
it's interesting, the only thing we had was some other boat, not him, some other boat going, yeah, we've heard that before, like, yeah, jerks from Miami, right?
Right. So, and then I went downstairs real quick.
You run downstairs while I'm assessing the vessel.
And I'm running downstairs. I'm like, Carter, Chase, Caleb, everybody okay? So Caleb...
We'll back up. All the kids were sitting on the couch.
The couch is on the left or port side of the engine. That's where he passed us. So that's where it picked up. So they're here, and they all slide. Everything slides to the right side. So the couch that they're sitting on downstairs watching, I think they're watching Pirates of the Caribbean.
They're just watching a movie.
And it all slides. So as they slide, without warning, Caleb puts his foot into the TV.
To stop himself. He puts himself out to brace him.
Carter, our side doors open for airflow.
Yeah.
And Carter is on that side of the couch, and he ends up barely hanging on.
He puts his feet and his hands out on the sides of the door to keep from being thrown overboard.
So he didn't get thrown overboard.
Caleb puts his foot through the television, shatters the television.
Yeah. And then Chase ended up, he was on the L part of the couch, so he gets like thrown into a wall and then ends up tumbling down the stairs. Yeah. So the kids are all okay. They're fine. They are extremely shaken up.
Yeah.
So I'm assessing that. Also, I had to find the cats and Cheddar and Tiger.
Yeah, because we don't know where they went.
So anyway, so I assessed the cats, and then I came back up top just to like, okay, we're still moving, so we still gotta watch where we're going.
And then an alarm goes off.
Our engine alarm.
Our port engine starts to overheat. So we run downstairs, we turn that off, we continue on one engine. As we're digging into stuff, trying to figure out what's going on, I'm looking at the engine. What happened was they pitched our boat so far over, my water intake on my port engine came out of the water. So I don't know the degree that has to happen to pull that out, but that's underneath my boat.
Well, it's only, I think we measured like 10 inches from the keel.
Yeah, it's
so the keel is dead center, so 10 inches over from dead center. We were that far over.
Yeah, and it's probably 3 feet deep in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Mind you, if you follow our story, we were out in 10-foot seas in the Gulf of, or in the
Exuma Sound.
Exuma Sound.
It didn't cause
and we didn't
much
have
damage.
any engine. We had less damage from that day than we had from this one pass on this boat.
One
overall.
pass was...
So it sucked water, and it sucked air. Once the air goes into your intake, those are not a self-priming pump. They run, and then what happens is they get hot, then the impeller comes apart. And then the engine overheats. Now, mind you, this happened in all of about 2 minutes. So we're talking like 120 seconds from the time we hear the alarm to the time we get it shut. I mean, it was quick. And from the time we hear the alarm till we shut off, it's maybe 15 seconds, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as we hear the alarm, we look at our gauges, we see it spiked, we run downstairs, turn it off.
Yeah.
But from the time he passed to the time the engine overheated was 2 to 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very quickly. Because I've got no water flow. And so we had to cruise in on one engine. At that time, I'm calling the vessel. There's no name on the vessel. It's a brand new vessel. I'm hailing.
I hailed the whole time you're down in the engine room looking. I'm hailing him. And no response. Zero response at all. We're very clear with our location. I'm looking for the name of the vessel heading southbound in Card Sound that just passed a trawler.
He knows what's going on, right? He does. I've got all kinds of people hearing this. Because we're on channel 16. Everybody monitors channel 16. Well, they should. If you don't, you should. I then get back up from the engine room and I hail him and I'm like, hey, y'all have damaged my vessel. You need to stop.
You must stop. It's the law.
You have disabled my vessel. You need to stop and render aid. At this point, I get a response. Not telling me who his name is. All I hear is, we did not damage your vessel. We never touched you. It was a safe pass.
It was a safe pass.
Now, mind you, state and federal law stipulates that you're responsible for your wake. Whether you touch me or not, you're responsible for your wake.
It is absolutely state and federal law.
Problem is in order to enforce this law, there has to be witnesses, there has to be a report, there's all kinds of instances. And
no one saw it.
We were in an area where there was no witnesses.
And
there's plenty of witnesses on the radio, heard us talking. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the Coast Guard records channel 16. Maybe you go back there. I don't know how to get it though.
And again, at the beginning of this video, you heard me say the kids, everybody, we kind of wanted a break from filming for a little while and take a little vacation. So I wasn't filming anything.
I wasn't filming anything on this. So we, at this point, I call FWC, which for those of you who don't know is like the police officers for the water down in Florida. Excuse me, police officers for the water down in Florida.
Fish and Wildlife
Conservation Commission.
They police the water.
And so I get them on the phone, I file a report. And
okay, we're back. So we're talking about FWC.
FWC, I get a hold of them, I report it. They take all the information down, they send it out to their on-water assets, the officers that are patrolling. And what is it, about an hour later, I think it was?
Well, at the time when we called FWC, we reported the incident, but we didn't know the vessel, what the name of the vessel was.
That's right. We didn't know the name of the vessel because it had no name on it. We just knew it was something 58.
And they would not reply to us over, they said we passed safely. That was it.
I think they gave us their name, but when you said it, it didn't, we thought it was, what, Sweetheart?
Sweetheart, which it is.
It's Sweetheart.
Sure. But we didn't even know what kind of boat it was.
So as we're coming through the sound, we finally get into the channel as we're heading underneath the Highway 1 bridge.
By Gilbert's Marina.
Yeah, so we're going to move from Card Sound into Barn Sound.
And we're still hailing.
Yeah, and every couple of minutes we hail, looking, and they don't. So as we're coming into there, there's a channel, so a lot of traffic comes out. And we passed a sailboat. I hailed them. I said, hey, Coach 17, we'd switch up a channel. I'm looking for this vessel. And he immediately goes, yeah, I saw the vessel. He passed me on the other side of as I was coming out of Barn Sound. And then he goes, he slowed down for me. And I'm like,
AKA, he knows he did something wrong. Yeah. But every vessel that we ended up talking with knew what had happened.
This guy was miles in front of us when the incident happened. And here this guy said, the guy that waked us says, oh, I couldn't hear you on the radio. Yeah. So anyway, he identified, he said it's a 58.
It's a 58 Serina.
Serina.
He said, I saw it on the side. It says 58 Serina.
But he as well couldn't get a name.
He said, I don't know the name.
So we called FWC back. Hey, this is what we found, blah, blah, blah. And then the officer who they dispatched to called me and they said, I'm here to send you more information. Can you give me a better description? And we described the boat. We told him we had the information. And she goes, I just passed him. I thought that was it. She flips around and goes and gets him. And so which is great. Great news. We found the guy. We're like, yay! We're going to get some restitution. We're going to get some help, right?
All we really wanted at this point was his insurance information because he has caused physical, financial damage to our vessel at this point, to the vessel and personal property.
Yeah. All we know, the vessel's overheated and it won't suck water. That's all we know. I haven't torn it apart yet.
And at this point, we know just from what we can see, a couple $100 of physical damage to the boat. Later, we did find out that all the conch shells and all the cool little sea glass that my kids had found while we were in the Bahamas, we were drying them out in the front of the boat, and they all went overboard.
Yeah. So we lost all that intangible stuff that you can't replace.
Yeah, which is sad, but.
So we're continuing to cruise along, mind you, on one engine. Mm-hmm. We get through, and the FWC officer comes up alongside our boat. And so we get down into, by this point, we're in the Buttonwood Bay.
Yeah.
At the north end, and we anchor down. She ties up to us, she comes aboard. And the first thing is we talking to her, she goes, got his information, she gives it to us, which is great. She was awesome. FWC was very, very helpful. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's just frustrating because without a witness or physical damage or someone being hurt.
Physical damage being they didn't hit us.
Yeah, there wasn't actual contact. So that's the biggest lesson we learned out of this. I'll just say it right now. Nobody got hurt. There was no physical contact. And there was no witnesses or recorded evidence. So therefore, it's a he said, she said. At this point, it immediately becomes a civil issue.
Right.
And she's like, as soon as I pulled him over, he knew exactly why he was being pulled over. I asked him some questions, and his response was, well, it's a new boat. Like, well, it's a new boat. I didn't know.
That does not exonerate you from your responsibility to handle it safely. Like, when we heard that, I was like, what? I think my jaw dropped. I was like,
what?
He literally said, well, it's a new boat. So that means
Like
you're
that-
not responsible?
So then I asked her, I said, does he have any credentials? So what that means is, does he have a captain's license? And she goes, yeah, he's got a 6-pipe license. So this is a guy who's gone through the course, supposedly, and should know this information, right? And his response was still, it was a safe pass. And then, out of randomness, she goes, and then he proceeds to ask me, this is the officer talking to me, she goes, and then he proceeds to ask me, I'm going into Founders Park, will my vessel fit? And the officer's like, I can't answer that for you. You have to do that own determination for yourself. And I'm just like, this guy is so like, I don't even give a crap about what just happened. I'm more concerned about me being able to get into a marina so I can, And this is right before, what, Memorial Weekend?
Yeah, so this is back in May. And
Which is funny because Founders is where, if you knew, right now I'm sitting in Founders Park.
that's where we go.
We 2 weeks after he left, we got into Founders Park.
This was where we scored a slip for hurricane season. So, okay, so with that being said, then let's fast forward real quick. So then we ended up filing a report with FWC. We sent all the information to insurance. We filed the claim against his insurance.
Yeah, we didn't file our insurance. We filed against his insurance because he's the one that caused the damage. And we thought, we file a claim, we'll get paid. Insurance calls him, and then the insurance calls me, and the insurance adjuster goes, he said he didn't do it. Like, what do you mean?
What do you mean
I've got
he didn't
a
do it?
damaged television, I've got a blown up engine, I've got all kinds of issues here. And the insurance, well, he said he didn't do it, you said he did, so we have to side with our client. Which I get, but it's so frustrating. I'm like, I didn't make this up. I didn't pick him out of the air and say, hey, I'm going to file it. And I was filing a $4,500 claim. Okay? How did we get to $4,500? Well, we come to find out I went to pull the impeller off of my engine. Raw water impeller came apart because it got hot, it ran dry, it explodes, it goes back through the cooling system. I've seen it happen before. He also, as I pulled that off, I've got coolant coming out of my raw water. So that means I've got a leak in my raw water and my fresh water. They're mixing, which means a heat exchanger. Sure enough, I pulled my heat exchanger off. I just a few days ago got a report back. I sent it off to get repaired. And he said every single line, every single pipe inside of there was blown. He says, you must have had a major spike of heat or pressure to blow that.
Well, we actually did.
I was like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I pretty much knew that's what happened before as soon as I saw the coolant coming out, I knew that's what had happened.
It's coolant.
Which is not good. Does that look green to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not supposed to be any coolant in there. It's supposed to be just salt water. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There should be those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are missing. And the fun part is you got to find the pieces. So there's one piece.
And that came apart when it overheated.
Yeah, because what happens is it got run dry.
Oh, yeah.
Because it had an air bubble, and they come apart.
And it can be anywhere in that whole system.
Yeah, like I can feel it.
So it's a $1,200 heat exchanger plus labor to pull it on and off. Thank goodness I do a lot of my own labor. Otherwise, you're paying anywhere from $125 to $225 an hour for a mechanic to come in and do this.
Plus coolant, plus...
Yeah, you're talking 6 gallons of coolant. You're
new
talking
impeller, new... All the time. Anyway.
It's a lot. Between that and the television and the different, like our
Instapot
Instapot is demolished. It's
and we know how to stow things. Like I had everything stowed, and legit it fell up and over where it was supposed to stow. So anyway, lots of random little things.
Yeah, it's funny. The heat adjuster was like, I don't understand how a television falls. How does it fall? You should have secured it. I'm like, the television didn't fall.
No, the TV
You threw a
didn't
couch
fall.
with 3 kids across the boat into the television.
I was hot. I was so mad. I was like, my television did not move. My child went into the television. I was hot. I'm hot.
So it's frustrating. Now my next step would be if I want to collect, I have to file in small claims court. up to $5,000 in small claims court. It's $300. They're 2 to 3 months out, and you may or may not find any results.
Again,
it's pretty frustrating.
Again, we are opting not to file small claims.
I think that's what we've decided, right?
Because it's going to end up being, again, a he said, she said. And although we still can prove physical damage, and I have video of the aftermath, we can prove he was there, and he is legally responsible for his wake. It's still one of those. This is why we opted to share it this way.
The main thing is I don't have the bandwidth. I've got a full-time job. I've got multiple jobs now because I'm doing the boat brokering plus the full-time job, plus doing repairs on our own boat. I'm still trying to get the engine fixed. Mm-hmm. It's just too much in my life, and at some point you have to go.
It's just
I can't do it.
Push it off the bridge.
I can't do it. So.
So we want to share that situation with you because we want to be real. It's frustrating. I don't know. I'm literally speechless.
You're speechless. Things we've learned, right? What's the takeaway from this?
Film everything.
Yeah, but you don't always know. I'm going to talk about some rules here in a second because as a captain, licensed captain, he should have known. Licensed captains are not, just because they're licensed doesn't mean they're a professional, okay? There's a lot difference between a guy who got a license for insurance discounts or whatever, so his insurance says you can drive the boat, and someone who runs a boat on a day-to-day basis like I do, or other professional captains. An actual professional captain. I've had zero issues with actual professional captains that run boats on a regular basis, whether it be for private, whether it be for commercial or anything. When you do it for a living, you get it, you understand it, and I love it. It's the weekend warriors that claim to be, I've got my captain's license. Those are the ones that we have the issues with.
Okay, so go through the rules then.
I was going to share something else.
Oh, okay.
One, there was no injury. Because no one got injured, nobody wanted to get involved. Coast Guard's getting involved, not getting involved. The
we called a lawyer.
FWC's not getting involved. Lawyers, like, no one got hurt. Okay. Second, no one fell overboard. If someone had fallen overboard, Coast Guard had been right there. They'd be like, nope, there's an incident. FWC would have been there. You didn't stop. I mean, that's a big deal. And the third one is there was no physical contact. Hindsight, I go through my head. I'm like, well, next time I'm jumping off the boat. I'm just gonna. I fell overboard.
You were really close. We were like hanging.
We were hanging. But I wish I had as soon as I'd seen him, I wish I'd cranked that wheel hard left and hit him, because then I'd at least have made him stop, and we would have had to sort this out, and then we could have. People would have been involved, or they have to figure it out because there's physical damage and stuff like that. So let's talk about a couple of rules real quick here. So Coast Guard puts out a book, Rules of the Road. This is the Navigation Rules and Regulation Handbook. This might get a little dry, but bear with me here, okay? There's two sets of rules. There's your international, which covers everything outside of the United States and oceanside, okay? And then you have inland. Inland is going to be usually within a 3-mile barrier. It depends on where the line of demarcation is. But we were inside the ICW, so we were under the inland rules. And Rule 9 talks about narrow channels. And it says that in a narrow channel, when overtaking, which means when he was overtaking me, the power-driven vessel intending to overtake another power-driven vessel shall indicate her intentions by sounding the appropriate signal prescribed in Rule 34. You're also permitted to hail on the radio, which would be, that's the most common thing that people do. Hey, Captain, this is, Illuminate, I'm behind you. I want to overtake on your port side. Do you have any issues with that? I did that multiple times, actually.
Many times we tell people
we had a barge, we had some other things that were like, hey, this is my intention, are you good with that? 99 times out of 100, like, yeah, it's cool, go for it. But they have the right to say, hey, I'm going to be doing this, please wait.
So he did not hail us on the radio, and he did not use a horn. He did not show intention to pass.
Yep. And then the power-driven vessel being overtaken, if in agreement, shall sound the same signal, aka respond on the radio, if you agree, to take steps to permit safe passing. And if in doubt, you don't do it. So had he hailed, if there's one area where I could say, you know what, maybe I screwed up in an area, I didn't see him coming from behind me. Do we have the dinghy up?
We have the dinghy up, so we
that kind of blocks my view. It is. As a good captain, you should always be looking everywhere, in front of you, side of you, behind you, because it's your job to avoid a collision.
With that being said, it doesn't matter if you saw him coming.
Yeah, technically, it's his responsibility.
We couldn't have done anything about it.
Had he been coming up, the only thing that would have changed is if he'd been coming up like fast, and I saw him, I'd be like, I'd have hailed him and be like, are you gonna pass? Because if he had said yes, I'd be like, please don't. We're in this narrow channel, and you're too close. Rule 9, the beginning of Rule 9 states that if you're anywhere within, it's within a half a mile. If you're within a half a mile, you're supposed to do this. And we were in a channel that was we're 15. It might have been 100 foot wide, 100 foot wide channel. And
we're not on the edge of it because we were just cruising down the middle.
Well, we weren't on the middle, but we were like 2/3. So 2/3 to our port, 1/3 to our right. We kept some barrier on the one side, and no indicator at all. Just overtook us. And it's his responsibility to overtake in a safe manner. And if you go on to Rule 34, that's what it states. It is the power. Bear with me here. Sorry. When a power-driven vessels are inside of one another in meeting, crossing or distance within a half mile, each vessel underway when maneuvering are authorized by these rules. And it talks about the blasts and, one blast to do this, 2 blasts to do that. And a power-driven vessel intending to overtake another power-driven vessel shall indicate her intention by the following, and it tells what it is. So again, there's 2 different rules in the book that he didn't follow. Takeaway from this that I learned: FWC is not enforcing navigation rules of road. That's a Coast Guard thing. And again, no witnesses, no damage. Coast Guard's not going to get involved. Nobody went overboard. Nobody got hurt. Coast Guard's not going to get involved. So
what are we going to do about it?
What are you supposed to do about it? It's very, very frustrating. But you need to take away from this that it's your responsibility, if you're overtaking another vessel, to overtake them safely. When in doubt, communicate.
Always communication. That radio is your guide.
Yeah, don't be scared of it. Hey, call, even if you're not doing it the right way. Any form of communication is better than no communication, okay? If you screw up on the radio, someone's going to say, hey, stop talking on channel 16, pick another channel. And you go, oh, crap.
Okay, you learned something.
You learned something. You pick another channel, you go on with it. But communicate. The number one thing is don't hurt anybody. Number 2 rule is don't cause any damage to other people's vessels.
You're responsible for your wake. So we know that. You know that. We all know that now. You are responsible for your wake. So I wanted to add, so what are we going to do now? This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're going to show you a photo of his vessel with his name. Are we going to add more information?
I don't know. He did it. Even just what really frustrates us the most, from what we've gathered on the gentleman, he's very well off. It's a $1.5 to $2 million boat, I think.
That he keeps at his estate right off Biscayne Bay.
Exactly.
Right off Biscayne Bay.
If you could take your stereotypical vision of the jerk from Miami, this is it.
We do have his phone number and address.
It's just frustrating because the whole time, and it's this personal responsibility.
This is what's wrong with our culture.
This is what's wrong with our culture. Exactly.
Take personal responsibility for what you do.
And it wasn't. Hey man, on the radio, I'm sorry, let me stop and help you out. Most boaters will help you out.
Absolutely.
And this is that different mindset. It's more like a Miami driving in freeway traffic mindset.
Just don't care about you.
Yeah, all it matters is if I can get to my marina and enjoy my time that I have planned.
It was his birthday weekend.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know
we have his
that.
birthday as well.
I didn't realize that was his birthday weekend.
So, in addition, we have some more information about him. He's no longer allowed back at Plantation Yacht Harbor Marina. We did find that out as well.
What type of person he is. They cause damage to the marina here, and him and his kids are no longer welcome here.
So
again, goes to character.
It just goes to show character. So one thing we've also taken away from this is we have taught our children that sometimes in life you are left to deal with the consequences that someone else has done. So we picked an absolutely safe route. We knew where we were going for the day. We stowed properly for the conditions we were in.
Good weather window.
And we still turned away with consequences. That's just life in general. And so we're just going to walk away with that. So that's why we decided to share it this way. We also had some encouragement from other people to share it this way. So thank you
Honestly,
so much.
So we're not lawyers. We don't know. I don't know, maybe we're doing something wrong. But if you've got information for us, you think something can help us, we're always open to it. I don't think anything's going to come of it. We've kind of washed our hands of the scenario. We're fixing the boat. We're moving on. If you run across this gentleman, steer clear. It's not going to be. He's not a safe boater at all.
No.
I wish there was someone involved that could at least take his captain's license away and give him a ticket or something, just to be like, dude, you're an idiot. You need to stop doing this. But it's just not the world we live in. So take what you want from this scenario. Hopefully it was helpful. We hope you learned something. If you hate us for sharing this, that's fine too.
Again,
just make sure and hit the dislike button twice so it registers. Okay?
Right. Again, thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and subscribe, like, and share. Share this with your friends. If you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey safely. Be safe out there, guys. Thanks again for watching.